Your purpose is the thing that you do to serve others. I expected God to say, this is what you are called to do. I couldn't seem to find my place in the world. That doesn't have a title. That doesn't come with a position. That doesn't give me authority. You're thinking, there's no way my purpose can be found in this job. It is important that you serve where you are in this moment.
Teach her how to jump and how to stretch when she reach, like the angels do, and you gon' make it through now. Tell about the healer, greater is the one within, and call him as the leader.
There was a time when I kept asking God, what's my purpose? I couldn't seem to figure it out because for me, purpose felt like it needed to be big. I expected it to be loud and, of course, obvious. I expected my purpose to be something that people can just look at me and say, that's your purpose. Or I can easily identify just by looking at something that this is it. It had to be grand. And so I couldn't seem to find my place in the world. I couldn't seem to figure out what God was calling me to. So even though people would point things out to me and say, you're good at that, or you're really impactful with that, or you have a way with that, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, but what is the big thing? What is the thing? What is the big, exciting, the fireworks? That's what I couldn't find. I learned, however, that purpose isn't necessarily a spotlight. It's that quiet yes, that surrendered heart, that one faithful step that you make when things feel dark and gloomy. And so if you've ever felt unsure, or if you're feeling unsure of what you're really called to do, then this video is for you. Let's talk about what it really means to chase after your purpose, and that, in fact, if you are following God, if you're seeking after his kingdom, then you're way closer than you think. Sometimes we feel like our purpose will be found in a platform. I too struggled with that because I felt like if God called me to it, then obviously he was gonna show everyone around me that he called me to it. Even with this very channel, I expected so much because I felt like I prayed about it. I felt like God told me to go ahead with it. I felt the nudge in my spirit. And so I'm like, where's the firework? Where's the big? Where's the blow up? And then I realized that it was really about the surrender. It was really about me giving God my yes. There was a study that I was listening to. I do not remember exactly where, but the statistics was shared that in America, the most unhappy people are people in their 30s and younger. It all made sense to me when I was thinking of recording this. I thought to myself, no wonder we're so unhappy, because we expect that our purpose should be found in a job. And so you might be in a job, you might be making money, you might be making impact. That might in fact be your purpose, but you might miss that opportunity to connect with someone, to impact someone's life positively, because you expect that if this is my purpose, then I need to be vice president. You might miss the fact that you're just the sales representative. You might just be the receptionist, but this is where you are planted. This is where God placed you. Maybe the job is in fact your purpose. Maybe what you're meant to do is to smile. Maybe that's your purpose, to make people feel good. Maybe your purpose is to tell people about God. Maybe that space needs your aura to thrive. But then you will miss out on all that. You will miss out on all the things that God called you to, simply because you're thinking, there's no way my purpose can be found in this job. Your purpose isn't necessarily connected to a title. And I see that so much, especially in the social media space. People feel like you need to have a title to be important. You need to have a title to be impactful. And so you look and everyone now is a life coach and everyone's coaching someone to do something, when really we should all be seeking to be students, to learn something, because life is always trying to teach us something. But if we're so busy chasing after the title, and I am so and so, and I'm not saying if you worked hard for your titles, then they're insignificant. What I'm saying is you might have the title, but that's not what your purpose is attached to. And so we have to train our minds to see, like to be clear, to be present, so we can hear God's voice, so we can know what we're being drawn to, so we can know when we're being our best self. I expected God to say, this is what you are called to do. And I expected that the following morning when I wake up, I should get up and feel all the beams and feel ready, because this is what it is. Your purpose isn't always clear. Sometimes you'll get little nuggets along the way. I remember reading a book years ago, T.D. Jakes' Destiny. And he said in that book that you know your destiny based on the thing that always calls you back, the thing that you're always being led to, the thing that people often say to you, you know, I think you're good at that. I think you should do that. But oftentimes we miss that. We miss out on the opportunity because in our heads we think, yeah, that sounds good. I know I'm good at that, but that doesn't have a title. That doesn't come with a position. That doesn't give me authority. What I want you to understand, because I had to learn that, is that the only way you are operating in purpose is if you're giving, you're serving other people with it. So if you feel like this is what I'm called to do, but you feel like I'm called to do this for myself, then that's not a purpose. Your purpose is the thing that you do to serve others. It's not about getting. So if you miss out on all that because you're chasing the title, you're chasing the money, you're chasing the recognition, you're chasing the fame, you're chasing the followers, then you will miss out on the most important thing, and that is to give your gift. This is what you share with people. That's your purpose. You need to understand that purpose isn't something that is just revealed overnight. Most times it will take you years to figure out. It has taken me years to figure out what my calling is. And I can tell you, I've had people tell me along the way, I have received prophetic words. I have had people in my circle say to me, you're really good at that. But for me, I was like, yeah, I'm good at that, but what else? I know I'm called to do that. I know. And I kind of put those things which really amounted to my purpose, I kind of put them as, okay, that's something else I can do when I find this big thing. And so when I kept going to God, like, what's my purpose? I can imagine he's like, I have been telling you, I have been showing you, but there's a saying, when the student is ready, the master will show up. And so he's been telling me, he's been showing me I wasn't ready. And so I was still asking. I can imagine, like, if God was like me, he would have been like, girl, oh my God, how many times do I have to tell you this? But thank God he's full of grace and tolerance. So he's like, okay, let me remind you again. Let me show you again. But you have to be ready to hear it. You have to, when you ask, you have to be prepared to receive it. One of the reasons why we struggle to find our purpose in this day and age is that comparison trap, especially in the social media space. And that research that I mentioned earlier also stated that one of the reasons, one of the contributing factors to us being the most unhappy set of people is social media. We compare ourselves to everything, to everyone, to people we don't even know. And so you might be called to serve the people in your church. You might be called to serve your friendship group. But now you start comparing your life to someone because they have a big platform. You might be called to just speak life into women, but you cannot really do that effectively because now you started looking at and comparing. She has a seminar every year, so mine isn't as impactful. You look at Woman Evolve and you're like, Sarah Jakes Roberts is doing a lot of women and I will never get there. And so you miss out on what God called you to do. And so you will find that you live your life on earth and you never fulfill your purpose because you're comparing. One thing I would like for you to note is before you compare yourself to someone, before you compare your life to someone, ensure that you have a full scope of what their life looks like. So if you're going to be envious of a person's marriage, ensure that you know that person and you know the entirety of their life. If you're going to be envious of a person's luxury lifestyle, be sure that you know what they did to achieve that luxury. Be sure that you know what kind of jobs, what kind of risks they take, what are the things that they're willing to give up. And so until we know exactly the wholeness of people's lives, then it is really ridiculous for you to compare because you're comparing your life, your entire life to little clips on social media. And it is so funny because a lot of these people, they know that they share and that you will just consume it and you will feel envious, and so they feel better about themselves to give you something to be envious of. So if you're trying to find your place in this world, if you're lost, maybe the reason you're struggling so much is because you might be comparing your day 1 to someone else's year 10. You have to be mindful. And one of the things that I would encourage that you do, if you find that the reason that you cannot figure out your place in this life is because you come across things and you're like, oh, I will never be able to get there. It is okay to step back from the social media space. It is okay for you to unfollow if you find that when you see someone doing what you would like to do, you feel envy, you feel jealousy, you feel like you're not worth it. It is okay for you to step back, unfollow that person if you must, so you can realign yourself. Your purpose is about who you're becoming, and ever so often we focus on what we're doing, how many people we're helping, how many people see that we're doing this. Your purpose will have you evolving silently. This is something that happens gradually over time. You'll find yourself becoming like the person God called you to be. But again, it isn't something that is often on display. For you to be operating in purpose, it means that you need to be walking in alignment with God. You need to be serving. You need to be serving with integrity. You need to be showing up with love. I can just tell you this straight up. There is no way that you are going to fulfill your God-given purpose on earth without walking in alignment with the calling of God on your life. It does not work. There is no reality where that works out. And so if you're here and you're trying to figure out your place, maybe you also need to figure out your relationship with God, because when you figure that out, then you can ask God to reveal to you. Until you start walking in obedience with God's word, until you give God your yes, until you have a surrendered heart, you'll never figure out what your God-given purpose is. One of the most practical things you can do to figure out your purpose is to spend time with God. Don't just ask him, what is my purpose? You have to ask and you have to listen, because a lot of times we're guilty of that. We go to God and we're like, God, what is this? What is that? How do I figure this out? What do I need to do? You get up, amen. You move on with your day. If you're going to ask of God, you have to be patient. You have to be willing to sit in stillness. You have to be reverent enough to hear him speak. Because think about it. Someone walks in and they ask you a question, and by the time you turn around, they're gone. Like, weird, right? That's suspicious. So it is important for you to speak to God and also to wait for him to speak to you. Serve where you are now. That is so crucial, because a lot of times we miss the growth because we want to move from here and we want to propel to level 100. It is important that you serve where you are in this moment. It doesn't matter how small you might think your impact is. All of us have a role to play in this life. So even though it might seem like someone else is able to reach millions, and that's beautiful, maybe in this present moment you're able to impact too. Serve where you are, whether it be a church, your job, in your home. There are people who will look outside of the people that they have direct access to, and they will look to want to get on big platforms. So you'll find women in women empowerment brunches. They're speaking on panels, they're hosting events so women can come together and heal. Meanwhile, they have a broken relationship with their daughter, their sister, their mother that they are not even trying to fix. So that is why it is important that where you are right now, the people that are closest to you, the ones that you have access to, you start serving in whatever area, whatever it is that your purpose is, start serving those around you. You might be a teacher and you start serving your students. You might be a nurse and you start showing up to speak a word of encouragement to your patients. Wherever it is that you are, start showing up in that space. One of the things that I am currently working on is staying in community. Because the truth is, oftentimes we think that we will find our purpose only in isolation, only at the feet of Jesus crying on our face. But oftentimes your purpose can be found with people. And so I know it's scary, because it is so scary for me sometimes to let people in, to allow people close to me. Like for me, when I see people try to get really close to me, I'm like, what are you on about? And it's so funny, because I will pray to God and I will say, send people who are for me. And I will say, send people who are aligned with my destiny that will help me get to the next level. And then I don't know, I cannot say that these people were those people, because the devil does hear things sometimes and he will send the fake to that. So I'm not saying that I have met them, but I don't know. But I am learning that my purpose might very well be attached to community, to letting people in. Maybe I need to start letting people in even to a certain extent, because my purpose might very well be attached, or the next level of my purpose might very well be attached to community. There are parts of you that need healing. because without healing, then you block clarity. People might be out here trying to point you to your purpose. God might be trying to speak to you, but from a place of brokenness, like I just mentioned, you cannot hear, you cannot get the clarity that you require. So for me, one of those things is I have an issue trusting people. I am always expecting people to have like some agenda. And so that's something that I need to work on in order to really align with what God called me to. Like, I know I have gone to sleep, I have received visions, and I have written them down with what God is calling me to do. I also have a friend one day, it was so funny, I didn't even tell her this. She might figure it out if she watches this. But I have a friend that, like, I think it was like 2 days after God spoke to me, she sent me a message and she's like, you know, this is what I see you doing. God is preparing you for this. And I'm like, oh, instantly I had like a knot in my stomach, because I'm like, wait, that is going to require letting people in. Oh my God. That's something that I definitely need to heal from. I want you to also note that your purpose might look different in different seasons. So you will find yourself in different expressions, and each expression of yourself might have a different purpose. So you might find a purpose in motherhood, and as your children grow, you will find that it moves into something else. You might find that your purpose is in your singleness, but then you get married and that changes. You need to have an open mind, and you need to be spirit-led. You have to trust God through all your seasons, with all your transitions, knowing that wherever it is that He takes you to, He has a plan to take you through it. Though that might change as you transition, as you evolve, it doesn't mean that you're going to be less effective in the other area that He's calling you to. That thing that might feel small now, that small business, that small way that you're thinking that you're being impactful, this is actually preparing you for what you are supposed to do. In order to have a strong building, you need a solid foundation. And so instead of thinking, I'm not doing much right now, I don't see anything much happening, I don't see how I'm changing lives, sit still, be still, allow yourself to be in the present time, space, and reality. That way you can acquire what you need. You can fail, you can figure it out, you can learn, you can acquire new skills to build that foundation. So if it is God's will to take you to another level, you will get there prepared and ready to serve in that capacity. I want to remind you that you are not behind. You are not forgotten. As long as you're chasing God, then you are already on the path to figuring out your purpose. It's only a matter of time now. I want you to share in the comments, what is that thing that you feel like you're being called to? What do you think is your purpose? If you have figured it out, or you have a pretty good idea what you might be called to, comment down below. Let me know what you think that is. And if you have figured it out, have you been showing up even in little ways to serve in your purpose? If you know someone that's currently on a journey trying to figure out what they're called to, trying to find their place in the world, then share this video with them. I pray that this video will provoke thought, will cause you to stop, to sit in stillness, to figure out what is that thing that you feel that God is calling you to. And if you have figured out that thing, what is that thing that's blocking you from showing up, from serving in your purpose? Do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up if it resonated with you. And of course, share with your friends. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye.
Teach her how to hold a pretty hand up to the sky.